All right, good afternoon. This is the October 28th meeting of the Design and Project Review Committee. We do have a quorum. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules to allow member participation electronically or by telephone.
Second.
All right, Michael, please call the roll.
Nyden.
Aye.
Mangum. Aye. Biggs.
Aye.
Cueva.
Aye.
Tristan.
Aye.
Gertis.
Aye.
Hink.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Sterling.
Yes.
And did I miss anybody else?
Okay.
Hey, Johanna, before we go further, is the chat enabled? Because it says it's disabled on my computer screen.
It should be enabled. Did you do something that kicked you out of chat?
It says disabled on mine as well.
All right, we'll tell you what, then here's what we'll do. We'll call for each that's really, maybe it's just now the city has it disabled somehow. Maybe I can message out. Let's do this. As we get to each agenda item, I'll ask for, we'll close the screen so I can see everybody, and we'll have people raise their hands, and I will then record the names of the people who have signed up to speak, and we'll go from there. Okay, so first item, is the applicant here for 1235 Dodge Avenue? Muhammad Ali. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't do minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, Michael, please call the roll.
Nyden.
Aye.
Mangum. Aye. Biggs.
Aye.
Cueva.
Aye.
Tristan.
Aye.
Gertis.
Aye.
Hink.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Sterling.
Yes.
Okay. First item, 1235 Dodge Avenue. Is the applicant here for 1235
Yes.
Dodge? Great.
Present.
Wonderful. Okay, so I think last time we didn't have the correct floor plan. Can you walk us through what you're proposing to do?
Yes, I'm trying to open a convenience store on 1235 Dodge, which will consist of soda, chips, candy, medicine, a little bit of beauty supply, cigarettes, and diapers.
Okay. Staff questions, comments?
Maybe a quick clarification. I think this site plan is maybe a little bit better than some of the other iterations, but I just want to be clear, up on this plan is west, which is Dodge Avenue. And you're showing two windows, 7-inch windows separated with 10 feet in between them. That's not what's currently there as far as the street view. Are you proposing any changes to the windows or the outside of the building?
No.
Okay, so it's just the plan's a little bit off as far as where the windows are.
Yeah, same way as it is.
So is there any build out proposed here? Are you doing any work to the space, mechanical, electric, plumbing?
No.
Okay, so if that's the case, then you should be contacting Ellen Golden in the health department to establish a food record, and then inspections will be done from the building division and the fire division based on, and the health division off of that food permit record.
Okay. So contact Golden.
Yes, if you're not doing any work to the space. If you are doing work to the space, a building permit would be required.
No, I'm not doing no work.
Okay. And then just another question. I think we mentioned restrooms on the previous meeting. So there is a common restroom that would serve your employees, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So it's down a corridor. It's, shared with other businesses in that complex?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm still a little confused. Which is the side that is fronting Dodge Avenue on this diagram?
Okay, it's the side with the two windows, the 2 foot by 7 inch windows
Okay,
on the top side.
okay. And so the door also is not shown, but that's where the door would actually be. There would be a door there for the public to
Yeah.
enter.
Yes,
From
be in
our
the corner.
discussion, okay, from our discussion last time, we discussed that cigarettes, chewing tobacco, cigars would all be located behind the counter. Is that still true?
Yes.
Where is the counter here?
The counter is you see the 7 boxes on the top left.
I
So
see
that's
6
where,
boxes.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 boxes. Those will be the counter.
So are you planning to block the window with,
Anything to lock the. What do you mean?
I guess I'm just so confused. Which way is the Dodge side?
Dodge side is on the top side where the 2 windows are.
Okay.
That's Dodge Avenue. If you look on the site plan showing the whole building, you would see Dodge, and then you will see my space on the right side. It says tenant space.
Okay.
So the door will be essentially in what is the top left corner of this drawing.
Yes. It's gonna be between the 2 tenants because there's like a hair lounge or a hair salon. It would be between the 2 stores because it's one building that has 2 stores, and then you have the car wash in the back.
So I guess I'm just really confused about what this counter actually looks like and how tobacco is being contained, because I just can't visualize this very easily.
I mean, it's gonna be like 6 counters, approximately 5 foot each. So we're gonna have 4 counters on one side and the 2 other counters towards the window. So basically, it covers, like, when you come in, everything's behind the counter.
Yeah, but are the candy bars and everything else, is that behind the counter too? I mean, I think
No.
that's probably in displays. So you're really only showing, I don't know where the staff person selling stuff is standing relative to the entrance door for the random customer.
Those are 6 shelves in the middle. So when a customer comes in, he comes in and he sees the 6 displays, and then you got the 6 counters like towards the window.
So those items that are in those 6 counters, are they within the counters on display, or are they going to be on shelving behind those counters?
It's a counter, and also it's a display behind there, like a wall.
Okay, so that'll be just on the, I guess will be the left side of the screen and not in front of the windows?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a question about outside the building.
Okay.
Where are you anticipating your customers are going to park? Because every convenience store I have ever been to, you can park as close to the door as possible to get all the things you're describing here. So where are you thinking street parking is going to happen? I mean, you just literally don't have any parking in front of your the store here.
There's parking in the back by the car wash. There's if you see on the other the site plan, the lot 12, that's a whole parking lot back there.
So how are people going to walk there? Are you expecting them to walk down the alley?
I mean, they could walk through the alley, or they could park on Dodge, like towards the houses.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how people are going to get what's convenience goods, but you have very inconvenient parking. So that I'm concerned that we're either directing people to walk someplace where there is no pedestrian path from an asphalt parking lot in the alley, or we had concerns for another business that wanted to open here for loading for quick drop off pickup in front of the store. So I'm concerned that people might just think they're going to run in for something really quickly and then park in the bike lane or do other things. So I'm a little concerned about the plan for parking.
I mean, the parking, there's not much I could do. I mean, there's parking on Dodge, and there's parking in the back, but that's all it is for the parking.
All right. Any other comments or questions about this?
Excuse me. I'm just really having a challenging time visualizing how this store flows, like where people come in, what's their pathway, where are they parking? And I realize that the drawing may not be to scale, but I'm truly struggling to actually understand how the store is really laid out, and that there's appropriate controls on tobacco. So I guess I feel like I just need additional information. After asking questions, I still don't understand what the parking plan is really, and how people are moving around this building and into it. So I realize.
All right, so this matter travels to ZBA.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so this matter travels to ZBA. It's a special use. So I would entertain a motion. So maybe like make a motion. And I think we had talked about putting some kind of, and Laura, you referenced this, some kind of conditions on this, recommended conditions. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a positive recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals with the condition that he continue to work on updating the site plan between then and now and submit a parking plan before ZBA.
The site plan would need to have clearly designated where the entrance and exit doors are and where the counter is, including showing the restricted area where customers aren't allowed to walk. And I'll second that motion with those conditions.
Okay, so I'm sorry, was there a second there?
That was my second.
Okay. All right. So this is a recommendation for positive. So yay is affirming, no is not. So Michael, please call the roll.
Knight,
No.
Mingham,
Aye.
Biggs,
Aye.
Cueva,
Aye.
Tristan,
aye,
Gertis,
No.
Hike,
No.
Jones,
No.
Sterling,
Yes.
And Edgar is now here, so you got to take his roll vote.
Edgar, Keno, are you there, Edgar?
He's muted.
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
What do you vote on this one, Edgar? Mike, you have a tally there?
I didn't hear Edgar's vote. Did he say anything?
We did not vote yet.
Oh, okay. So at the moment, it's 5 ayes and 4 nays.
All right, so Edgar, you need to vote. You need to know what your vote is.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes,
All right.
So that's 6 positives and 4 nays.
Okay, that was a very exciting vote. Okay, so it moves to ZBA with a positive recommendation. All right, thank you. Next up, 1555 Ridge Avenue. New business. Thomas Mador, applicant, submits for a building permit to construct a new 5-story, 68 dwelling unit multifamily residence with 59 off-street parking spaces in the R6 General Residential District of Plan Development, approved by Ordinance 52020. This is preliminary and final review. Before we go to this item, are there options? Stop. Okay, so this is where I need to know if people want to speak that are from the public, they could turn their cameras on and indicate by raising their hand so I can see if they would like to speak. Members of the public that would like to speak on this matter. Turn your camera on, raise your hand. Okay, going once, going twice. No public comment for this matter. So, sorry, Mike, go back to sharing your screen. All right, so who from 1555 is going to speak and review?
I can speak to this. I'm the architect of record, Jay Keller.
Great.
Okay, I haven't done this, I mean, I did the initial process, but I haven't done this follow-up process. So if you'll be so kind as to guide me as what you'd like me to go through.
I think you could just do it pretty, and we're very familiar with the building, obviously, many of the staff having just reviewed it. So I think just go over, any changes that might have been made and anything that's in greater detail and landscaping. And we do
Okay.
have a hard stop at 4 o'clock, but we
Okay.
can't use this full hour. We have another plan development behind this one.
Okay, I'll be very brief. On the site plan, one zoning comment from Cade regarding changing a couple of the plant varieties. The arborist worked through that with him, to adhere to the Monarch Pledge and change the landscape plan, and we re-uploaded those. The only other thing is that originally we had one stair and elevator coming up. We have a utility room coming up to house common hot water heaters and solar panels and solar hot water heating equipment, which was basically came about because of the LEED silver requirement and the solar panel need. Other than that, rooftop units were added there that weren't indicated before, as we were not really privy to where they would go. But everything else, setbacks and everything else, parking remained the same on the site plan. The first floor plan did not change. The only change from Dapper to City Council was that I think we added 2 more parking spaces, and the ground floor unit went away. Can you scroll through, I guess, to the elevations? I guess it would be the and the upper floors, the unit configuration did not change. And there's that utility room I talked about with the equipment. If you could go to the east elevation, maybe. It should be, maybe we passed it. It should be before the sections. There it is, the first one. Okay. So we have all the way on the right side, there are 2 small windows, which differed from what we had originally submitted, which was taller windows. Cade identified that in his zoning review, and we changed it back to exactly match what had been approved by the Planning Commission. So this drawing is a little old. We've updated it and re-uploaded. If you go to the the north elevation. Oh, you're just there. Sorry. It's the next sheet. Okay, right there. So, the small square window of 4 in from the right side was originally a tall window. It is a window into the bathroom. Building code required that with proximity to the property line, we could only have 15% glazing. So that window got smaller. And that's all that changed here. The rest of the major elevations along Ridge and Grove did not change. And I believe that pretty much sums it up. We added a couple of things to the construction management plan per Cade's request. And then there were a number of other things that Cade identified that would happen prior to certificate of occupancy, coordination with Divvy and things of that nature. So pretty minimal with regards to the changes. Open for any questions.
Did anything change with the landscaping?
A couple plant varieties to more closely adhere to the Monarch Pledge. The arborist reached out to Cade directly, and Cade kind of asked, they talked it through, and then we added a couple different plant varieties. Or the arborist did, and so we submitted a new landscape plan.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is right now. We're just doing staff questions right now. And would you like to speak? Are you a member of the public? Would you like to speak?
I am a member of the public.
Okay, I'll put you down for comments in a moment. We're gonna do staff
Okay.
and then we'll do public.
Great, thank you.
Great. No problem. Any other staff questions?
Sure. So I see on the elevations, the cooling tower on the rooftop is shown there.
Mhm.
You could go over the height of that. I know it's set back towards the middle of the building. But if you go over the height of that, and then if you have any line of sight drawings to see kind of where that would be visible from.
Let me see. Let me see if I can pull it up. I don't know the height offhand. We did not do any we don't have any line of sight drawings. We could present them to you. It's set back. It's quite tall. It's again for kind of the heating and cooling system we're required to do per lead. But I don't have that information offhand, but I could certainly follow up with it as needed. It is, like you said, it is set back quite a bit from the front. Let's see if I can.
It looks like it's about twice as tall as the mechanical penthouse there. So I'm just kind of concerned what that is going to look like and where we'll see that from.
All right, other questions from staff or comments? All right, hearing none. Ms. Zeller, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I do, and I'm sorry, I came in late. We're talking about the Main Street site, is that where we are right now?
Oh, this is 1555 Ridge.
Okay.
That one's coming up.
Then I will wait. Thank you.
All right, any other staff comments, questions? All right.
I'll go ahead and make a motion for a positive recommendation or a positive preliminary and final review.
A second.
Great. Mike, please call the roll.
Neiden,
Aye.
Mangum,
Aye.
Biggs,
Aye.
Cano,
Aye.
Cueva,
Aye.
Tristan,
Aye.
Gertis,
Aye.
Hink,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
and Sterling.
Yes.
Okay, great. Motion passes. All right, next up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is 718 Main Street. So for those of folks who've joined in progress for the meeting, kindly turn your camera off if you are not a staff member. And actually, don't do that yet. Turn your camera on if you'd like to speak and raise your hand so I can put you down. Rachel, I have you down that you'd like to speak. Who else would like to speak? All right. Pete. All right. Sean Chinsky, got you. Rogi, I'm assuming you want to speak with the applicant, right? Okay. Rogi's going to speak with the applicant. Jeff Harlow, got you. Sorry, I didn't realize chat was disabled, so we'll do this for next. We'll have a better sign in. Okay, Dave Stumpf, I got you. Let's see, I got STG. I don't know what your name is, but if your name is STG on Zoom, you are signed up. Anyone else want to sign up that I did not just call your name? Okay, so if you are not applicant, if you are not staff, kindly turn your camera off and I will, and then I have Joe Drennan as well. Joe Drennan. Okay, so 718 Main Street, why don't we have a little bit under an hour to discuss, take some public comment, get staff feedback. I anticipate this will likely be 2 DAPR meetings, just given the volume of information and questions. So that is my thought there. And then why don't we get right to it? Applicants, whoever's speaking first, or if it's Rogi, I'm not sure how you structured this, but please start.
Johanna, do you want to do the engineering presentation first to give some background information? Or do you want to?
Well, tell you what, let's let the applicant, let's do, I mean, they're both really important. Let's do applicant first. And then we have engineering staff on to give a little context for the Main Street project. So people are aware that the street will look a little different than it does right now. And I think that was something for the members of the public in particular who came to the ward meeting a couple weeks ago. It's obviously shown on the plans, but this will give us a little bit more context for stuff. So if the applicant could kindly try to keep it to 10 to 15 minutes, I'll try to keep time and let you know when to kind of wrap it up, but that would be great. And a lot of the other information will come out in some of the discussion, comments, and questions.
You want me to take it away?
Yeah, we're going to share the screen, Johanna.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Rogi.
Hi everyone. I'm Rogi. I'm one of the owners of Vogue Fabrics. I know there's a lot of questions about what we're trying to do, and so there is a lot of information on my website. If you want to go to voguefabricsstore.com, you can see it in the news section. But basically, about 10 years ago, my cousin, my brother, and I were thinking about the future of our business and what we would like to do. And basically, it is to combine the retail store from Main Street and our wholesale warehouse from Hartree into one, basically one store that would be like a Sam's Club of fabrics. So all the fabrics, wholesale, retail, backstock, everything in one location, open floor plan, central checkout, all of that. In order to buy a new place or to move and do what we want, we need to sell the Main Street store. It is the building is obsolete. The building is inconveniently laid out, needs lots of work, and we would need the money from the sale to go and do what we want. So I just want to make it clear to people that this is something that is driven by our trying to sell the business or the location. And we did try this a few years ago and that didn't work out. So it's been a while coming. We're really excited about this project, and I'm going to turn it over to Paul and Charles so that they can tell you more about the building that is proposed to go in our space.
Hello, I'm Paul Denson, and with Catapult Real Estate Solutions, one of the developers of this site, along with CityPads. I've been developing real estate for over 20 years in Chicago, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis. And our primary focus are sites just like this, mixed use, residential, and retail in urban infill sites. Catapult and CityPads together just finished a very similar project to this one at 6145 North Broadway in the Edgewater neighborhood. And everybody's welcome to drive by. So this is very recent and significant comparable development. And so we've tested it, it's tried all these concepts in the building and style. The architect today is Built Form Design. We've worked together a long time, and in fact, they were also the architect at 6145 North Broadway. I grew up just down the street at 1202 Main Street, which is in between Ridge and Asbury, where Ridge Court dead ends into Main Street. I went to Washington School, King Lab School, Nichols Junior High right down the street from this site, as well as ETHS. I even worked at a jeans store right across the street from Vogue. So the reason I'm bringing that up as a point is that I'm very familiar with the area. I've lived there, worked there, and it's near and dear to me. I care about it quite a bit, and it's important to me to reinvigorate this, do a quality job, and present a quality product now and for the future. As Rogi mentioned, Vogue has clearly come to the end of its life cycle. It's ready for a new life. And we would like to bring some of the excitement from Chicago and Maine and that Chicago Avenue corridor where there's been, a great deal of development east of the tracks, bring at least some of it west of the tracks where there hasn't been really any development in at least 50 years, possibly 100 years, that is multifamily development. And it's important for this very historic storefront, this very historic retail area to get some new vibrancy, and new apartments would provide, new customers, and also just the vibe of it moving forward. What we're proposing today is a transit-oriented development because we have an amazing location at Main Street, one of only 3 in the whole Chicagoland area, that being downtown, Davis Street, and Main Street with the CTA and Metro. Very rare, very unique, and very wonderful. So we want to take advantage of that with a transit-oriented development. Now, we're not proposing today to do a luxury development. We're proposing to do workforce housing to provide reasonably priced apartments. Today, most developments are luxury oriented, and that's not what we're proposing. In fact, we're doing 10% of the units that are affordable that meet the affordable standards, and we're not buying out of that. We're putting it right on site. We're dealing with it, facing up to it, however you want to put it, and not shying away from it. The balance of the units will be within the range for working people in Evanston. And Andy will get into that in more detail. Just one final note, we're not seeking any TIF funds to do this. We're doing it through design and location. We believe that design is a really good fit for this location and neighborhood. And with that, I'll let the architect, Arden Friedman, kind of give you the details. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This first slide is really not this one.
Which one are you looking for? Arden? This one?
I was going to go through the Main Street back. There.
Take a minute over.
Is this one, Arden?
No, the one on Main Street. The aerial view with the street shots on it. Yep, this one. I'll go through this quickly, but basically how we started the project was doing some research on Main Street, going up and down the street, photographing what's there, and trying to understand what gave Main Street its character. Our takeaway was there's a lot of diversity in building type, building scale. And I'd say the most successful parts either have a significant amount of landscaping or some active retail. Again, we started, image 1, you have a 6-story, I believe it's a hotel building. Slide 2, there's some existing apartment buildings, nice trees, it has a very residential feel. Obviously park, school. When you get to our site, I think, feels a little barren, a little thin on landscaping. And I think just given the size of the footprint, and it's a 1-story, not much storefront, feels a little bit of a void. So obviously we hope to improve on that. Slide 5, like Paul mentioned, TOD with the Metro and CTA. So in that regard, it's a great site. And then when you come to Chicago and Maine, obviously buildings of larger scale, a little bit more of a downtown feel, but adds a lot of activity to the street. 7 and 8, again, some bigger buildings than what we're proposing, but you start to pick up the sense of a street wall and a lot of active retail. So Charles, if you go to the next slide. So what we're proposing is 5 stories, mixed use. So we have apartments and a little less than 4,000 square feet of retail. First idea was to enhance this corner by providing something that fits in with the rest of Main Street, but also is recognized as a residential building. So we have a little bit more glass, some Juliet balconies, and then we decided to have our rooftop deck, which is an open rooftop deck, on the corner as well. These are the retail spaces. Again, so it's brick, it'd be modular, so consistent with the rest of Main Street, but these would be our 2 tenant spaces. And if you look to the back, that's the apartments up above where you see the Juliet balconies. Next. This
All right,
is
so we're a
our,
little bit over 10 minutes right now, so maybe try to wrap up in the next 5 or so would be great.
sure. So here's our site plan. We have 47 indoor spaces. The yellow strip to the right is a pedestrian passage between the 2 buildings. You can see our retail entrance off Main, and at the corner we have building amenities. So fitness center, some sort of game room, lounge, and then obviously our lobby. Also proposing a green roof on the 2nd floor. So this will be for basically a benefit to the tenants that face that. And then again, our open air roof deck, sort of a smaller amenity, but they're very popular. Again, the materials we're proposing is a modular brick, consistent with a lot of what's on Main Street. And then the fiber cement panel, you know, it'd be like a Nichiha, something higher quality. That's going to last as long as the brick. And some aluminum storefront down low. And most of the windows and accents will be in a darker gray or black. This is maybe Charles, you could talk a little bit about this, but this is.
Yeah, thanks, Arden. So this is the next couple of slides kind of takes us down our site plan for what we're looking for. So, you know, our site coming in with great timing with the streetscape and the Main Street corridor project that's being developed by the city. We're excited about the, you know, both projects coming to, you know, potentially coming together at the end with the Main Street improvements. The crosswalk here will be located directly across from our retail, which we think is a great attribute to our project. You know, this corridor that you saw before kind of ties in with the breezeway that we have proposed from the alley to the south. So it'll connect the 2. And some of the images are items we're looking to pull through and carry through that breezeway. This next slide kind of shows a little bit more of our site plan. And on the ground floor, we're going to have landscaping, you know, the streetscape, really, it's an urban project. So the streetscape makes up majority of our exterior of our building. And then along the back side, we're going to have a court, you know, a breezeway through that'll connect with some bike parking, a bike repair station, and different bike racks that'll help enhance the building and provide our tenants a great resource. And our next slide I'll get into, and Andy's going to talk a little bit about the potential tenants in our building.
Yeah, I know we're down to only a couple minutes remaining, so I'll make it brief. My background is in the apartment leasing space. I started a company called Chicago Apartment Finders, and then its peak was renting 5,000 apartments throughout Chicago and the nearby suburbs. When I decided to become a developer about 10 years ago, I wanted to focus on housing that that people can truly afford. And one of the things that we learned in leasing apartments is that renters they care about a couple things. They care about the location of the property. They care about the actual rent of the property, and then they care about that their amenities of the neighborhood and of the building. You're able to have at least the minimums. And if the apartments are too large, they really won't pay for it. If the amenities are oversized, they won't pay for that either. So the projects that we develop and the types of properties that we focus on are projects that have rents that achieve what the average person is looking for, if not below average. And you'll see, that our approach here is that we created not only the IHO units on site, but almost half of our apartments meet the 100% average median income, which is not something that typical developers are able to accomplish. And the way we were able to do that is through design and through keeping some of our costs down by keeping the building not going high rise, not by looking at transit-oriented development, which allows us to reduce our parking, which costs money to build, and also keeping our amenities sufficient but not oversized. And I think that's the main points that I'd like to add. I know we're short on time. I want to respect that. I think that's important to note that we design the units based on what we know that renters are looking for.
Great, thank you. All right, just a real quick show of hands. Anybody who did not already indicate that they want to speak for public comment in a little bit. Okay, Stephen Lind, Diane Goldring. Okay, anyone else I'm missing? I don't think so. Okay. Laura and Chris, do you want to give a quick overview of the streetscape and give a little context here about how long we've been working on this?
Sure. I'm going to just introduce Chris Fanata, who is a senior project manager in our engineering group, and Rajiv Dahal, our traffic engineer, is also here if there are any additional questions. Chris, go ahead.
Sure. Michael, you can pull that presentation up? All right, so I'm just going to do a brief overview of the Main Street improvements project. So the whole limits of the project are from Maple Avenue to Hinman Avenue. For our purposes here, I'm just going to focus in on the Sherman to Custer section. What you can see here, this is our landscaping plan. We're in a 60% design phase right now. So some of the main things we're looking at is sidewalk improvements throughout the corridor. Right now, they're all the paver blocks that are heaved, and the slopes don't meet ADA cross slopes and curb ramps. So all this is going to be replaced to the new city standard, which is the concrete sidewalks with the brick ribbon curb. They're also going to be widened slightly between Sherman and Custer in order to give a little more pedestrian space to the businesses through this corridor. Trees are also going to be installed throughout here. Some of the ones that are already in here, we have the opportunity to relocate in other places in the site, but a lot of this corridor between Sherman and Custer will get new trees throughout the streetscape. There's also, like you saw earlier, mentioned a mid-block pedestrian crossing, a raised mid-block pedestrian crossing through the center right across from the parking lot, as well as some geometric changes to that parking lot. Right now, there's two ways into it. We're going to be closing one of those, leaving only one entrance. That'll give a little more pedestrian and sidewalk access through there. There's also the parking lanes throughout this corridor are permeable pavers. That'll be a green infrastructure installation in order to help the stormwater management. Also new lights. Right now it's the old candy cane style, so we're going to be updating it to the city's current street light design, which is the davit arm, as well as this intersection of Sherman and Main will get a full new traffic signal upgrade. One other small thing to note on this, the current post office boxes that are in front of the post office are going to be moved to the northeast corner of Sherman and Main here. People used to stop right in that crosswalk, and it would presented a traffic and pedestrian hazard. So we've moved them over here to help alleviate some of that. If you want to go to the next slide. So this is picking up more of the same here. I think the only new things to note at this intersection, we're going to be sliding the crosswalk a little bit to the west, to the one that crosses Main Street. This will give a little more sight visibility to the pedestrians, especially as they're traffic coming out from under the viaduct. We're also going to add a bump out on that north side to shorten the crossing distance. This won't affect any of the truck traffic going to the lumber yard. We've done all our turning movements to make sure that that functions properly. And again, all the sidewalks through here, they're pretty severely out of spec today. Everything is going to be revised so that it meets all current ADA standards. If you want to go to the next one. This is, I think you saw a small one in the previous presentation. This is just a conceptual rendering. It's basically standing in front of the Vogue building, looking to the east. You can see the new streetscape elements and the trees. So this is an idea of what it's going to look like. Next slide. So to briefly touch on our schedule, right now we're at a 60% design phase. We're hoping to have our design 100% complete by this spring. As far as construction goes, it's going to be broken up into two projects. The first one will be a water main improvements project next summer. That's currently in the draft capital improvements plan for next year. And then the full corridor improvements, most of what you're seeing here on the streetscape, will happen the construction season of 2022. And one more slide. So as far as the construction impacts, for the water main improvements project, we're looking at about a 10-week duration. This will be operated under, similar to how we do our other water main projects throughout town. That's the daily daytime parking closures. So Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, parking will be closed. Traffic will maintain throughout the end of the day. The contractor will move all the traffic control. Parking will be opened up. Weekends, there'll be no impact. Now the main corridor improvement is going to be a little different. So it's a little more impactful. So we have to do a phased approach. What that means is two different things. One, we'll be working block by block. So we'll work from Maple to Sherman, then Sherman to Chicago, and then Chicago to Hinman. And then within each block, we'll have to phase. We'll do the pavement work in one phase, and then we'll do the north sidewalk, and then we'll switch and do the south sidewalk. Throughout this time, we'll maintain business and pedestrian access on both sides of the street throughout the entire project. What this may look like, though, is when they're working on the north sidewalk, pedestrians maybe will make a pedestrian pathway in the street, and then there'll be ramps and different ways to access the businesses, similar to when the Fountain Square project happened in the downtown. This may also result in some extended parking closures. When we're doing some of that work, adding that pedestrian access, we may have to close down parking for a period of time. So not just, it won't open back up at the end of the day, nights and weekends. That'll be permanently while we're in that phase of construction. So we're still working through that to try and minimize it as much as possible. And that's all I had.
Great, thank you. All right, so let's start with staff comments and questions on the project. Let's go with Public Works first, since we'll dovetail off of that presentation. Laura, Edgar, and team, any comments or questions?
So generally the streetscape is being redone under our engineering project. One of my biggest concerns, though, is that our project stops at, is really just Main Street, and this project kind of wraps around the corner of Sherman. So I would like to make sure that the concrete sidewalk with the brick ribbon wraps all the way around the property and goes southward on Sherman to the limits of the property, which is the alley, I think. No, it's not quite the alley, but to the limits of.
It's not quite the alley, but to the end of our property. We've taken that into consideration. Kind of taking your details and wrapping around to the limits of our property.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be great. Another key feature of the project has already been incorporated in, which it includes that pedestrian walkway from the parking lot in the back of the property to Main Street. I think that's a great amenity. I'd also, as we begin the discussion of public benefits, I think there's some issues with the existing public alley. It would be great if there were some improvements to that alley. I think some improvements are going to be needed post-construction regardless.
Okay.
Is there any reason why the sidewalk couldn't go extend all the way to the public alley? I'm just worried that's going to look a little broken or disconnected. And that could be a public benefit.
For now, we're going to keep it to the limits of our property, Joanna.
And then I had a question about the walkway. I don't know if Mike Rivera is on here. I know we said we focus on public works, but this feels like a public space, public works sort of thing. That that walkway to the parking lot, that lot isn't necessarily public parking anymore, right? So I think when this was originally conceived, we were thinking that would be a public benefit to that lot. Can someone speak to that?
Someone from the city or from the developer?
Oh, anybody. If Mike, are you on? Oh, there he is, Mike Rivera.
As far from the development, from our point of view, we're neutral. We were asked to do it as a public benefit. It obviously takes up land. We could expand only the first floor, just to be clear, because so it would give us a little more retail or amenities or wider parking aisles. So there's a benefit there to us. By not doing it, of course, above that, we need the setback anyway for our light and vent, so that wouldn't be extending. But generally, we're neutral. If it's a benefit to the city and to the public, we're willing and happy to do it. But if not, then we don't need to.
Johanna, can I talk to that? That was actually
Sure.
what my question was about.
Yeah.
So I actually would prefer to see that eliminated from the design. That the lot was a public lot until this past June, and now it's a private lot. And the way the design is, it's essentially creating a pedestrian passageway that's going to go through our private property and send people walking down the alleys. We won't be doing hourly parking in that lot probably ever. So I think it served a great purpose initially, but my hope would be that it would not. I think it's going to create sound issues for the people that live in the building if people are walking through there, the echoing. So I think it could be a nuisance or even a safety issue.
Yeah. So I think you just got some more land to work with.
So I do want to remind everybody, though, that our streetscape project, sorry, I have a cat. Our streetscape project has been in development for a number of years, and it's just going to be really important as you guys do your construction that it's closely coordinated with our project. Our schedule is sort of, I won't say it's 100% fixed, but it's being controlled by things that have nothing to do with this project. And so one way or another, we're moving forward. As we do that, it's going to be really impactful, particularly for pedestrians. And we need to make sure that your project is able to work with our construction as needed in order to make sure that all the access that is maintained.
Thank you, Laura. It's Charles. I recognize your dates, and for right now, they align well with our project for what we need to do underground, as well as the end of our project and in the restoration of yours. So as it stands right now, I feel like we're in good alignment, and that'll help minimize disruption to Main Street. And as in the past, I'll continue to coordinate with staff and see to it that we meet that obligation.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Other public works comments?
It's maybe somewhat related. I see the traffic study was not included with the application. I know it was mentioned that obviously traffic counts are difficult right now. But I did want to point out that there was a traffic study submitted with counts taken in late 2018 for the townhouse project on Custer. So that may be another avenue, if your traffic consultant hasn't looked into it yet, to use those traffic counts.
Sure. Thank you, Michael. We'll take that. We'll put that together for you.
So during the public meeting a couple weeks ago, a lot of concern was raised about the alley and additional traffic to the alley, people backing up into the alley, and other kind of use. So could we maybe pull up that and talk about the alley usage a little bit?
Johanna, how would you like that pulled up? Google View, or you want to?
Well, actually, I'm fine. Either if we want to just look at the site, and then maybe we have Google View ready to go, the site plan. Mike, is that something you can easily get to?
I can bring it up.
Great, thanks.
So here's the, for what it's worth, here's the Google View.
So this alley has been, I alluded to it very briefly, but this alley has been a concern for quite some time, partly because of the public parking in the back, but also just in general. There's a lot of pedestrians in this alley, and it's not, in general, we don't want pedestrians in our alley, but it's not designed for that. On top of it, it's in very poor condition. Following the construction of a major building adjacent to it, I cannot believe that it's going to actually be in better condition than it is now. For that reason, I think that that's something the developer needs to take into consideration as they move forward with their construction, is how are they going to leave this alley a better place than they find it currently. That's something that we would really like to see the alley reconstructed to the city standard for alley construction at the completion of this project.
Well, so Laura, it's an improved alley right now, considering other alleys in the city of Evanston. As you know, many of them are unpaved. So this one is a paved alley. I don't know if you've done core samples, that'll help us get a better understanding of what this structure is to the alley. So I'll work with Chris on that and understand what you have for subgrade, and then we can determine what a pavement management plan is for the alley itself. Now, when it comes to your previous comment about the traffic and pedestrian, and you're right, this alley, just like many paved surfaces in around Evanston and in around Chicago, the paving just pushed out and no engineering really went into place, mostly related to the lots to the east of us. And what I think, and I shared this with staff previously, we'll work with them to find ways to better engineer the alley for traffic, directional traffic, which is there, and find a way to make it, I would call it a little bit more traffic calming and a little bit more traffic control, which I think is what's lacking back here. So as we proceed with the project, we'll propose some ideas and we'll see how we can further develop what's happening back here in the alley.
All right, other comments about the alley or the rear of the property from staff? Okay, let's go on to planning and zoning. Comments there from Scott and team.
Sure, okay, maybe just a couple comments. So on the public benefits that have been proposed, I know one of those has to do with the affordability of the units, of not only complying with the IHO of 10% of the units being at affordable at 60% AMI or below, but then additional units being affordable at 100% AMI or below. So just want to make sure what you're proposing, or clarify you're proposing to deed restrict that. So that would be like a 25-year requirement to restrict those units.
Can you clarify that again, Scott?
Sure. So the application states that essentially half the project units, 49%, will be at rent levels below the 100% AMI threshold. So I want to clarify that you're not just projecting that that's what you think the market rate will be, but you're proposing to restrict the rents long-term at that level.
We're not currently planning on having a income restricted building, no. That is a projection. We are providing 10% affordable on site, and we're designing the rest of the units to be at that level. But no, we were not proposing to have an income restricted building. There's no subsidies in this development. There's no TIF funding. And so no, we weren't planning on that. Andy, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. From my perspective,
Those are rent.
it's to
Those
be
are rent estimates based on the way we're designing the units. We estimate those rents to be under $1,600 in rent, which is 100% AMI, which is the average median income in Evanston. Not the intent was not to propose a low income housing tax credit project. That's a different type of project, different approach. The cost of construction would go up significantly and would be a completely different development here.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. It just, from my perspective, if it were to be considered a public benefit, it would be something that would be restricted. So then the public has a guarantee that that's going to be restricted over a period of time. Let's see, then another public benefit was the street beautification, replacement, upgrading the pavement, widening the public sidewalks along Main and Sherman. Is that to be done at the applicant's expense or just a part of the city project?
The city it's my understanding, the city is already planning to do Main Street, that it's fully funded and going ahead with or without us. We're, as Charles alluded to, taking on beautifying the Sherman Street side.
Okay, so Sherman would be at the applicant's expense. Okay, there's a question about the alley access there. If you've done truck turning diagrams as far as the loading, access to the alley loading dock.
We'll have those sent to you, Scott.
Okay, thanks. And then on the, going over to the elevations, the ground floor shows amenity spaces on both sides of the lobby at ground level. Just question, what type of amenity spaces would those be, and would there be transparency into those spaces from the streetscape?
Yeah, there's storefront to, currently there's storefront to all of those spaces. And like I said in the one slide, it'll be a combination of a fitness center, some sort of, public lounge, and then just the normal lobby, mail room, that sort of thing.
Not a public lounge, it's more a community room and hangout space. So yeah, not open to the public.
Okay, and then I think you mentioned the kind of Juliet type balconies. So are those, what type of depth is proposed for those? And is that the same on the units on floors 2 through 5 at the corner, additionally with the units on the 5th floor on the Main Street side?
Yeah, all the Juliet balconies will, we obviously haven't detailed these yet, but they'll be similar in depth, probably 3 to 4 inches. Maybe the one on the corners will be different because those have floor to ceiling glass. Probably what we're showing in the rendering is closer to 10 inches. But again, Juliet balconies, it's just a way to open the sliding doors and get more light and vent into the space and have a more residential feel. And, they're obviously not occupiable in any way.
Okay, and then I appreciate the 5-foot step back along Main Street for those floors 4 and 5. I think probably somewhere in the 7 to 10 foot range would be a little more effective as far as reducing the perceived scale and mass of the building. So that's something else to look at. And then additionally, just question or comment about bird-friendly measures, particularly with the glass areas in the lower 36 feet of the building and the glass railing shown at those balconies.
Thanks, Scott. I mean, those are previous comments that we've had, so we're taking those into consideration.
So I would I think Scott kind of hinted at this, but I think the public benefits need to be cleaned up a little bit in terms of things that are listed here are things that are code required. So our, code requires the IHO, affordable units. Some of these things are just results of doing a project, like the new upgraded utilities would be things that you would probably do otherwise because you'd have to do it for your development. Public benefits should be things that offset the impact of the development, not because of the development. And I think there may be some speakers that will mention this, but and Scott kind of peeled back this a little bit, but keep in mind that the work that is in here as new streetscape on Main Street are things that we would be doing anyway if Vogue was still staying in that space. So doing things that we are not able to do, such as the upgrade of the alley or bringing the streetscape all the way to the alley, are things that are really true public benefits and help the area neighborhood. And I don't know how much you've watched the presentations and the process for plan developments on other sites, but the public feedback is very often related to the things that impact outside of the development, not just things that are nice about the development, new retail, elimination of curb cuts, greening up the street. Those are nice things that development brings, but things that really impact the public that all of us who do not live in the building can enjoy. Those are public benefits that the city likes to see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking for anybody to respond to that and to provide new public benefits. It's just something to keep in mind that will help you as you move forward to the Planning Commission and Planning and Development Committee of the City Council.
So just one comment, is the city neutral to or doesn't care about the on-site? It's totally neutral to the buyout? I mean, because it's probably better.
Well, it's not a public benefit because it's required. So when things like, in our minds, the inclusionary housing ordinance is a requirement, just like it is a requirement to follow the building code. It's a requirement to not use well water, to hook up to our city. Those are the things, these are requirements by our code. So if it's codified, it's not a public benefit. So LEED certification, not a public benefit. It's a requirement. You have to do it.
Doing it on site is probably better than buying out. I think that's what Paul is asking. Is that seen as a benefit that we're actually complying? Because it's more financially advantageous to a developer to buy out than it is to provide it on site.
Of course, it's always but as long as you're fulfilling, I mean, you make your own decisions about how you want to comply with the inclusionary housing ordinance. If it makes sense for it to be on site, sure, that's good. If it's easier to do the buyout, then that's also fine too. It's just it's up to, the code gives options, but if you do over and above what's required, that is considered a public benefit.
Okay, thank you.
But to clarify, we would certainly prefer on-site units, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sarah, do you want to speak to a little bit of this? I see you just turned your camera on.
Sorry, I didn't put my title.
Sarah, can you speak up, please?
Right. Sarah Flax, Housing and Grants Manager. I sent an email saying we in response to your saying you wanted to talk. So hopefully we will get that set up for Friday, as I sent by my email. Keep in mind that if you have any zoning relief, you're required to have 5% minimum on site by the current IHO. So you can't do a full buyout if you have any zoning relief. And then your benefit, your height and density and other bonuses change. And so I don't want to try to speak to how it might affect your zoning analysis.
Our intent would be to keep them on site. We we were surprised that it was not a public benefit.
No, well, that's because it's an ordinance on its own, as Johanna explained.
I mean, Sarah, can you clarify, because you're proposing 10% on site, correct, Paul? Where the requirement is 5% on site.
The minimum.
That's correct.
So to me, the 5% additional could be a public benefit.
Sarah, we're having a hard time hearing you. I don't know what's
Sorry,
going
I
on.
don't know what is.
Maybe try holding a little microphone closer to your mouth.
I will try that. Is that working? Okay.
Yeah, it's better.
If you have 5% on site, then you have to pay the fee in lieu on the remaining 5%. So it's not like you can just do 5%. But what happens is your height and density bonuses change. They are higher when you're at 10%. And also your parking reductions are greater because the more affordable on-site units you have, the fewer parking spaces you are required to have. So I can't do the math on that in my head. That's not my specialty, but if you were to look at changing the affordability on site, that could very easily affect some of the other parts of your development and your zoning analysis.
Like Andy said, we're planning on doing it on site. We want to do it on site. It's something that's important to us as developers, not to shy away from it. But again, we were just surprised. We want credit for it. But yeah, we're planning on doing it.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, any other planning and zoning comments from staff?
Maybe just one more, just on the design. I think you generally do a good job of varying the building materials on the street elevations, but the other elevations should have some variation in building materials to break up the east and south elevations. And then kind of comment on the bricks proposed. We'd like to see bricks of the size and scale that are predominant in the area. So not a utility brick or jumbo brick size being used.
Yeah, that's our understanding, modular brick.
All right, any other planning and zoning comments? Okay, transportation, any comments from Laura or Jessica?
I would say that it'd be great to have better clarification on the number of bikes that will fit into the bike room. And then I would also, as a public benefit, something that you consider is a Divvy Bike e-station. They're a much slimmer station, and they're with our upgraded Divvy electric bikes. So this could be a benefit not only to your residents, but also the community at large. And you could look at something like that on your Sherman side.
And that's okay. Yeah, great. That's a benefit. Great. Yeah, we'll count up the bike spots in the bike room. And if we do eliminate that breezeway, I think we'll have extra footage to maybe even make that bigger. I don't want to speak for Arden and Charles, but I think that is going to be a result if we go that route, to have more bikes inside. And then we have bike racks outside as well, in that backyard, courtyard area. So we'll count those up.
Yeah, Jessica, we're proposing bike parking indoors as well as outdoors, and have more of a bike station, if you will, outdoors back here, a covered bike station, as well as a bike room. But we'll see what we can do in order to look at that Divvy station, that Divvy E station.
Great, and I'm happy to send you details on the station specs for that as well. And the cost is about $2,000, so it's fairly nominal.
Sticking with traffic, Rajiv.
Or Laura or Mike Rivera, any parking comments?
I'm waiting to defer to Mike if he wants to say anything first. This area is somewhat congested in terms of parking, and parking is an issue that we've looked at really closely in terms of our streetscape project because of that. However, I think there's always the concern that that this will drive parking further into the residential portion of the neighborhood. Is Mike on?
We can hear you, Laura.
Okay, well, if it's pretty typical that a compromise that is developed in this type of situation is that the residents of this area would not really be eligible for any zoned parking areas in this, so that they would be required essentially to park at the building and in no other locations. So I think that's something that needs to be taken into account when marketing the building, and I think that that should be made clear to the residents who eventually rent in this building.
Right, and I think that came up at the public meeting that Alderman Wilson held, that, and it's a typical caveat of our ordinance that if there are neighborhood parking permits available, they are to be, people who reside at this address are excluded from that ability to get those permits.
Yes, that's something that we, have anticipated and are willing to adhere to. I mean, we want to, we're very confident in the amount of parking that's being supplied will meet the demand, but if it doesn't, we will take on that responsibility and prevent our tenants from, via the leases from applying for getting the local permitting. Yeah.
It's also a typical requirement that a certain amount of the parking spaces that are supplied within the building be available for electric charging units. And additional spaces should be electric charging unit ready, so that as electric charging expands with a relatively small amount of work, the conduit's already in place, so on, it can be expanded within the parking area of the building. I'd also like to see, as this project moves forward, more clear waste management program. I realize it's very early for this type of a project, but generally the types of things we like to see are, first, that it's pretty clear how vehicles actually remove the waste from the site, which sounds obvious, but is not always thought about in advance. And second, Evanston has really been promoting recycling and composting as and moving that into our multifamily residential properties. So it is helpful for us if we see that there is a commitment to that there's space set aside for that type of waste management within the building.
Certainly, Laura, we'll make that more clear on our plans. We've taken into consideration how logistically we're going to move the waste in and out. We have space for it and proper screening from our neighbors to the west. Okay. As well as your earlier comment about electrical vehicle and charging stations, which has been a norm at our previous projects.
As always, another thing that I would say that we really push is compliance with bird-friendly building processes, making sure that we're using glass that meets those bird-friendly rules. And we do have some information available. Certainly there's a group in Evanston that is happy to provide you any information that you need.
We'll take a look at it. We're aware of that and putting this project together. So, some of the considerations we put into the Juliet balconies and, between glass or metal screens. So.
And the lighting. Yeah.
Lighting, proper lighting, the Monarch pledge. I mean, those are all the things that we're aware of as developers in doing the project in Evanston, whatever it means to, provide the right plant species and nectar plants or whatever it is. We'll take that under consideration.
I appreciate that very much. And then finally, since you brought it up, we are conforming this area to our new street lighting philosophies. It is generally really important to us that typically for commercial developments or multifamily residential, we would like the lighting to be zero at the lot line and also to be efficient and not be wasted upward into the sky, but be downward pointing lighting, LED.
And we'll provide that foot candle study to you so we can show that to you. And, you know, as you know, I've successfully done that with you in the past. So we'll provide that same type of information with our lighting plan. It's important in how we manage our security and as well as our neighbors to the south and to the west, to making sure we have that cutoff, but we also have appropriate lighting and foot candles for what we need to manage on the back side of our buildings.
I appreciate that. Also, generally speaking, we're looking at lower Kelvin temperatures of lighting and trying to stay away from the bright whites.
Okay, you know, it's if that's what you'll accept, right?
That's what we would accept. Thank you.
All right, any other staff comments before we move to public comment? All right, so it's
no, just one thing, Anna, just in reviewing the packet, there's you know, there's neighborhood concern about the deconstruction of the existing building and then the construction of the new building. So I think you already know the city requires a construction management plan that details the management and execution of the project. So a lot of the public concerns you'll have to address in that construction management plan. So that would have to be done prior to the deconstruction of the existing building. And then the other item of note is just on your rooftop mechanicals, if you're proposing rooftop mechanicals, we do get a fair amount of complaints regarding noise and just the visual. So you should look to some sound attenuation for those rooftop mechanicals and some type of barrier screening for those rooftop mechanicals.
Gary, did you say that that construction management plan has to be turned in with prior to demo? Is that when you're looking for it?
It should, yes, it should include the demolition as
the demolition permit application.
Correct.
My deadline for that. Thank you.
And again, I'm saying this for the benefit of everybody who wasn't at the neighborhood meeting a couple weeks ago. One of the things in that construction management plan is where construction workers will park when they're at the site, and they would not be allowed to park on city streets in the neighborhoods. They'd have to find some off-street parking somewhere that could sustain that.
So Johanna, yes, it would include truck routes, contractor parking. It would include your schedule for the project. Vibration monitoring is something that is a concern during all these big projects. Your people are in the adjacent properties, they're going to feel vibration. So it's something that we require is vibration monitoring of adjacent structures. Worksite communication, we encourage that a website is developed in order to, so that any adjacent property or any resident could just go into your website, get construction updates, et cetera. So those are the types of things that we're looking for in the construction management plan.
Yeah, I've developed plans before for previous projects, both in the city of Evanston and outside, and comfortable with the requirements you have and would consider them standard practice today for what we do.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Great. Okay, since no further staff comments, let's move to public comment. I have about 9-10 people signed up, so I'm going to give everybody 2 minutes. Kindly keep it to 2 minutes or less would be great. And I will start with Rachel Zeller.
Thanks. Hi. I understand that this is more of a design meeting, but I'm just wondering, as all of these projects are being considered and the assumption is that families are going to be moving into these buildings, when is it considered where all these kids are going to school? Our schools are very overcrowded, so I'm just wondering where they're all supposed to go.
So normally, just so everybody knows, normally we don't really respond to public comment or questions. So,
oh, well, okay.
Yeah,
so,
just because we just want, it moves it along. I mean, I think these are all concerns. I mean, yes. And that's a good question for your alderman.
Okay, so that I guess that's my question. Where do I direct it? Where does it get addressed?
Sure, I'd recommend talking to Alderman Wilson, and or the school board, District 65 or 202.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I'm sorry, next up, Pete DeJong.
Hi, thanks. I have multiple comments, but I'll try to keep it fast. I think your picture showed that west of the tracks is a different neighborhood than east of Chicago Avenue. It's a residential neighborhood. I think the scale of this building and the looks of it may not really fit the neighborhood. I'm also concerned about the traffic, and that corner at Sherman and Main sees a lot of fire trucks come through. It's a main route out for the fire department around the corner. The alley is an old block construction with asphalt on top of it. It's not going to take very much heavy equipment on it. If it does get rebuilt, it has to be kept at the level or below the level that it's at, because most of the people that live there built their garages and their parking space such that it would flood if it's not reinforced enough and if it's kept low. Also, the setback is a real issue. The alley sees a lot of traffic through it. If there's not a setback for the people coming out of that garage in order to be able to be seen or to see what traffic might be coming down before they hit the alley, there's going to be somebody getting hurt. As far as that alley being a pedestrian alley, it's a neighborhood. It's not an industrial area. It's not a commercial area. It's a neighborhood. So people use the alleys, and just assume that's going to keep going. I'm glad you're taking out that east area, east walkway, because that would be a dead end when something gets developed over on that lot. And the utilities, the power poles have just been recently redone. So any work that gets done is going to be totally because of your building, and don't bring it up as a benefit for us. The parking at $150 a space is not going to be filled. People are going to park in the street. You know that because you're trying to make something that's affordable. And affordable people that are looking for something that's affordable, they're going to have a car, but they're going to need to park in the street. So either you have to make the parking free, or come up with another alternative. That's it.
Thank you. Next up, Sean Chinsky, are you still speaking? Wanted to speak?
No, my question was answered. Thank you.
Great. Okay, Jeff Harlow.
Hi, thanks a lot. I'll try to keep it brief. My first point is, as a resident of the neighborhood, it's not a secret that this private property is being redeveloped. I mean, there's clearly been a lot of deferred maintenance on it, and anybody that lives in the area knew it was going to be redeveloped. A lot of us have concerns on the scope of the redevelopment, the size of it, and especially the number of zoning variances that are requested. Alley, my garage is going to be like 8 feet across from your entrance to your garage. It's going to make it very difficult for me to enter and exit my alley. Another point is a lot of people using that alley as a shortcut. They will turn left onto Washington Avenue, go up Custer, and instead of making the left at Main, they will cut through the alley really quickly and then make the right turn on Sherman. There's a lot of traffic. I'm very concerned about the amount of traffic that's going to happen at rush hour. People entering and leaving your garage as well as the other traffic. Frankly, I'm very concerned about my ability to enter and exit my garage. I don't think that the elimination required setback is at all fair, reasonable, safe, etc. Impact on parking in the neighborhood, just reinforce what everybody said. Most people that live in this neighborhood don't commute, or many people don't commute downtown. If you look at the parking on the street in the morning, people leave to drive to their jobs. There's usually a fair amount of parking available during the day. At the end of the day, they come home. And from about 6 o'clock on, there's no parking in the area, or there's very little parking in the neighborhood. I agree with the comment at $150 a month. People aren't going to buy your parking. They're going to park in the neighborhood, and it's going to screw their existing residents. I think the building height is excessive. It's just way too this area. Again, this is a residential area. It's different west of the tracks along Main Street than it is east of the tracks.
Mr. Harlow, that would be 2 minutes. Do you have if you have these in writing, can you email staff your comments?
Absolutely, but thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, Dave Stumpf.
Hey there. Similarly, I did actually write down all of our concerns that we have. I live right next door to the proposed development. In fact, my backyard is literally the back wall of Vogue. So we have a number of concerns about the building height, of course, and the parking, and the density, and of course that 0 rear yard setback where 15 feet are required for that alley. The height is a concern of ours because of our backyards. We're going to have significant loss of natural light and certainly a pretty substantial loss of privacy in even using our backyards, because we're going to have all those balconies overlooking them. So we're interested in whether or not a light study will be done, and a number of other issues that we've had and concerns that we did both share with Michael. But I'll also say we shared these concerns with the developers, and they were super nice to have a conversation over Zoom. Paul, Chris, and Andy met with myself and my other 2 neighbors here in the row houses right next door and spent a couple hours with us talking through the project, and it was really helpful, and they taught us a lot, so we do appreciate that. But we still have quite a few concerns that a lot of other people do too as well. So thank you. Just wanted to say my piece.
Great, thank you. Next up, STG. All right, maybe not. Joe Drennan.
Yes. Hello. Hi. Yeah, I live in the neighborhood. I actually live across the street off of Sherman from where Vogue Fabric is. I think I would like the folks that work for the city of Evanston to keep in mind that you are a residential neighborhood that has no buildings this size. You guys talk about comparable properties on the east side of Chicago Avenue. East side of Chicago Avenue and Hinman are filled with large apartment buildings. These buildings do not exist on Sherman. The impact this building is going to have on the neighborhood is tremendous. I understand that. That's part of the development. But I think for you guys to waive a zoning requirement that they don't include all the parking spaces that are required under the law is irresponsible. That's going to have a huge impact on the neighborhood. You know, you guys talk about permit parking. There isn't permit parking in this neighborhood. If you're going to introduce permit parking, you're going to be taking money out of every residence every year to pay for something you're giving away to these people, these developers, that you don't need to. This is a premier destination. You will not have a problem finding developers that can make money at this property and provide the parking spots that are needed. And so I don't understand why we would want to give something away that's going to so directly impact our quality of life. You know, you've already had a couple people that have come up and said that, you know, there is an excess parking now. And on top of that, the parking across the street that for this local stores is going away. That's just going to create a nightmare in this neighborhood, and it's going to destroy the quality of life in this neighborhood. And I hope the city employees take that into consideration before they grant any zoning variance that would give away parking spaces. Also, the testimony on the alley that has been offered is 100% accurate. There are literally over 100 potholes in that alley. I've lived in an unpaved alley in Evanston and would prefer that to having to drive through this alley that I do have to drive through. It's absolutely brutal on my vehicle. And if you're going to put construction vehicles in this alley, it's only going to multiply how severely destroyed this alley is, to the point where residential vehicles aren't going to be able to use it. And so I think
Mr.
it's
Drennan,
important.
that's your
I'm sorry. No worries. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. If you have anything else, feel free to send it to staff in writing. Happy to collect more information. Next up, Steve Lind.
Hello, I live right behind Vogue Fabrics. My garage, I live next door to Jeff Harlow, and my comments basically echo his. Like, waiving that setback requirement, I won't be able to get out of my garage. It'll be very difficult to, you know, square out my car to get into my garage. And, you know, I feel like the height's excessive and it blocks a lot of our light. So, I mean, you can see my backyard right there. There's Vogue Fabrics, and that's going to be 15 feet closer and 3 times as tall. And so that, I know that only impacts me directly, but I mean, that's just a concern I have. It just makes it a lot harder. That alley is going to, I mean, this just causes all kinds of problems. So that's basically it.
Great, thank you. Next up, Diane Goldring.
Hi, I live right down the street also, but on Main Street, right across actually from where Paul grew up. And my concerns, I think, are a little bit different. As I was doing some research on this developer, I came across a couple of things that were really disturbing. That 6145 North Broadway development, a neighborhood group pulled out its support at the last minute because they refused to sign the community benefits agreement that they had been discussing for a long time. And then I guess Andy had refused to put it in writing. And then I also found about a development in Pilsen that was they bought a neighborhood, a community organization building and painted over a very well-loved mural and in the heart of Pilsen, and it just destroyed some of the community sentiment. So I just wanted to point that out, and it was only, I've only heard one side, so I think that's something that they're gonna, as neighbors of ours, are gonna have to answer to at some point.
All right, that was the last public comment that I had signed up. Is there any other member of the public that has been on the call that would like to turn on their camera and indicate they'd like to give public comments? Oh, okay, I have Bennett Johnson and Camille Landis. Is that
correct?
Okay, and Tony Ray. Okay, all right, Bennett Johnson first, then Camille, then Tony Ray.
Hi, well, obviously I'm not Bennett Johnson, but I am a neighbor of Jeff's. I just want to say my concerns about the parking, which is, I mean, you're talking about 47, places for that would accommodate the people. But these people have friends, they have family that will eventually visit. And they're going to be parking on Washington, and they're going to be parking on Sherman, and many of the other residential streets. And I've just got some really major concerns about that. Thank you.
Great, Camille.
Yes, I just want to add my concern regarding the parking. I live on Madison Street. It's already difficult to park. When people are going to the train, they come and park on our street, and it's very difficult to park. And if this development goes through without the additional parking spaces that are required by law, yep, I would hope that we would be able to get at least permit parking on our block, because it's already a problem. And if the city were to give away these,
No.
Excuse me, Camille has the floor right now for comment.
If the city is going to bend that rule for this development, I certainly hope that they will give us permit parking, and I'm going to pursue that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Tony Ray.
Hi, I live at 1020 Grove. I am not a neighbor, but I am part of Joining Forces for Affordable Housing. Just want to say, glad to see you're going to do all 10% of the affordable units on site, and that you are going to make the building an affordable building. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody. So I think at this point, we will.
I'm sorry, can I make one comment? This is from the public. I apologize for being late.
Okay, 2 minutes.
I'll just take 1 minute. Hi, my name is Jordan Stark. I recently moved to the area around the corner with my wife and young daughter. Really appreciate this meeting and the local engagement. I guess more for the city and specifically for this development, I would like to see a broader, more comprehensive approach to the discussion related to parking and traffic. Specifically, traffic studies are always subjective. They are what they are. And so therefore it will work for the developer or the neighborhood's benefit regardless of where it is. And so my point is I would like to see more of an effort to show, especially now with some data opportunities, where is origin destination? Where are people going? Certainly COVID has put a wrinkle into this, but ultimately I would have real concerns about asking for, we need more parking when we have alleys for parking, we have residential garages for parking. So how many cars per resident do people want? How many more when it comes to supply and demand do we want to fight over the very limited amount of right-of-way we have? Certainly between residential and commercial interests, there's always that conflict. But I guess just more so for this project, an opportunity to really show more than a traditional traffic study, what is mobility? How many people are going downtown? How many people are walking? How many people are going west, et cetera. So I just like this opportunity for this project to show a little bit more than just the traffic count typical conversations we have. Thank you.
Is there any way you can let Andy back in, Johanna? Andy Atow?
I show nobody trying to come in right now. I just let Claire Kettlecamp in, and that was the only person who wasn't in the meeting in the waiting room.
Okay.
But the meeting is being recorded, so anyone can, and it should be up on the website within a day or two once the video is rendered. And
Well, I think he wanted to respond to somebody's comments about certain developments, but okay.
got it. Okay, so let's do this. I think we've heard a lot of good comments. We do not have a Dapper planned for next week. I think it'd be great if some of these comments could be incorporated, and then we meet again on the 11th to move this on to Plan Commission at that point. So was there a motion to continue to the 11th?
I'll make a motion that we continue this meeting, this item on the 11th or the next available Dapper meeting.
Second.
All right, Mike, please call the roll.
Naiden,
Aye.
Mingham,
Aye.
Biggs,
Aye.
Cueva,
Aye.
Tristan,
Aye.
Gertis,
Aye.
Pike,
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
All right, so we'll be back together on the 11th. No Dapper next week. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 See you then.
Thank you very much.